I'm going to say, do a few, recognize a couple of people, and we'll go straight into the introduction. Um, has Katie Dugas signed on?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to give a shout out to Katie. She does extraordinary design work. She did the flyer with Barry Corbin on it. You guys may have seen that floating around Facebook. And she's going to be working with Judith and the team, and doing some work with the logo and the website and so forth. She's got an incredible attitude, very talented. And if you ever need design work, please email her at katiedugas@icloud.com. And I'll put that email address in the chat here in a bit. Also, I want to say hello to Zoe Yeoman. She is a wonderful client. She's an accomplished actress and producer, and she's an expert on etiquette. She founded and ran a school on etiquette for 13 years. She's done a lot of articles, interviews, and she's going to be contributing content that talks about etiquette and auditioning, etiquette on film sets, and all of that. You can find out more about her at zoeyeoman.com or find her on Instagram at the OG Etiquette Expert.
Thank you, Barry.
Now, our guest tonight, I feel so blessed. I've known Barry for almost 10 years, and he is probably, there's no conversation that you have with Barry where you don't come away and feel like you've learned something. He's one of the most celebrated actors from the past 40 years. He made his film debut in 1979 as Uncle Bob in Urban Cowboy. He's gone on to do over 200 other projects like War Games, Lonesome Dove, No Country for Old Men, Northern Exposure, The Closer, Modern Family, Lone Star 911, so much more. You may have also seen him on The Ranch with Sam Elliott, which streams on Netflix. And most recently, he appeared on Yellowstone. And most people don't realize that before Barry ever made it to the big screen, he had already spent 20 years in theater as a classically trained Shakespearean actor. His Texas roots run deep. He is a third-generation Texan. His father was Kilmer Corbin, who was a state senator, and he held the record for many years for holding the longest filibuster on the floor, which was over 28 hours.
Wow.
So, and then also Barry's grandson, Jordan, is on the hit show, The Chosen. So they have this whole family dynasty of public service and doing what they do. So glad Barry's here tonight.
You make me sound a lot better than I am.
Yeah.
I doubt that. You're great.
Are we ready to talk?
Please.
Well, let's have a conversation. Barry said that my dad talked for 28 hours. The only times that he talked longer than that was when he was giving me a lecture when I was young, and I told him I wanted to be an actor. He talked for about 50 hours, telling me why I shouldn't. And I didn't listen to him, of course. I went and did my own thing, and I haven't regretted a minute of it. But I'm glad he tried to discourage me, because anybody who wants to do this ought to be discouraged, because if you can be discouraged, you shouldn't be doing it. Anyhow, I worked under all the contracts there are in equity: dinner theater, LART, Broadway, off Broadway, all those different umbrellas. And it was a great 20 years, but I couldn't make any money. So I moved to California about 42 years ago, 43, 44 years ago, and managed to hit it lucky a couple of times. And then I got kind of dependent on the movie money, so I haven't done a lot of stage work since. I do have a one-man show that I do called Charlie Goodnight's Last Night, playing the you might have seen Lonesome Dove. If you saw that, Charlie Goodnight is the prototype for Captain Call is Charlie Goodnight. And he was that kind of a fella. But I play him at 93, just before he dies. So it's a retrospective of his life. And as Barry said, I was trained in classical theater, and I didn't talk like this when I did Shakespeare. I talked another way. But I'm so used to talking like me now that it's hard for me to break that habit. Anyhow, I'm just I've enjoyed my career. I hope people have enjoyed watching it, and if they haven't, then but I guess they have, because they keep calling me up. So, and I'm not going to retire anytime soon. Somebody said, "When are you going to retire?" I said, "When I can't remember my lines anymore." And so far, I haven't had too much trouble with that. So as long as I can hit my marks and say my lines, I'll keep going. Anyhow, do y'all want to hear a little Shakespeare?
Yes.
Sure.
I want to tell you,
Sure.
I want to, the reason I want to do this is because it encapsulates a life, and I am in the maybe the sixth age of this
Of 7.
whole thing. And so anyway, it's from As You Like It. And you probably have already guessed what it is. It's all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and each man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking nurse's arms, then the schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face creeping like snail unwillingly to school, then the lover sighing like a furnace with a woeful ballad writ to his mistress, eyebrow, then the soldier, full of strange oaths, bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden, quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. Then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. The next stage shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose, pouch on side, his youthful hose well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in its sound. The last stage of all that ends this strange, eventful history. His second childishness, mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans taste, sans eyes, sans everything. So that's the story of a man. That's the story of a woman. That's the story of all of us. We are here for a short time, and you know, it seems like yesterday in a way that I was a little kid playing in the dirt in the backyard in La Mesa, Texas, having shootouts with the neighbor kids, and playing cowboys and Indians. But the difference was I thought it was real. And I was fortunate enough to be able to ride horses and do all that. And I decided when I was about 7 years old, and when I was watching I think it was a Wild Bill Elliott movie with Dub Taylor playing Cannonball, and I thought I could do that. And then I never grew up. I'm still a kid. I'm still that same kid that I was 75, 80 years ago. And I probably never will grow up. I kept thinking that I would eventually start wearing neckties and act like an adult, but I never have yet. And now I see absolutely no point starting now. So you see me for what I am. And from better or worse, I got a bunch of kids, a bunch of grandkids, and some great grandkids. Somebody asked my daughter how many kids she had. She said, "I've got 4, and Dad is the oldest." So that's the way I am. So anyhow, are we gonna have a conversation here? We're gonna talk back and forth, or let's do
that would.
somebody
Sorry.
ask a question. Let's start. Let's have a conversation.
That was incredible, by the way.
Yes, in fact, everyone is welcome to unmute and applaud. That was great.
Thank you for sharing.
Really?
Woohoo!
Loved it. Barry,
That
I
was
have
a-
a question.
Yeah.
When you do the same play or Shakespeare or whatever, and you go through different directors, maybe a different period, different theater, do they ask you to do the delivery quite differently?
Sometimes it's usually well, you do it differently anyway. No matter what age you are. The first time I did that speech, I was a young man. I was probably along about the soldier age, and so that was I didn't really understand the last 4 or 5 ages. You know, it's and now it all makes sense because I've been through all of them, except the last one. I'm not blind and deaf and stumbling around yet, but I'm getting there, and I can see the end in sight, but it's hopefully a long way off. I can see the horizon. But yeah, you have. I've played. I played Mercutio several times in Romeo and Juliet, and you know, each time you're playing with different people, so it makes it different. Makes a difference in how you play a part. You know, you want to fit into the production, and you want to. You don't want to overwhelm whatever it is that's going on. You know, and if you're playing the lead, I played. We're not in the theater, so I can say it. Macbeth. Yeah. And I've played that once, and there is you know, people don't realize that Macbeth has a sense of humor. There's a lot of kind of funny stuff that he does. But I didn't realize that until I started working on going through the rehearsal period. And I realized that he's laughing at everybody throughout the play until he comes to the very end and he realizes that he really had the whole thing wrong to start with.
The joke
Right.
was on him.
And,
Tell us, Barry, if you would. Hi, my name is Zoe. Tell
Hi.
us. Hi, Barry.
Excuse me, Zoe.
Yes?
Gerald had his hand up first. Can we get
Oh,
him?
my apologies. Ooh,
It's okay.
yeah. All right. Who am I talking to?
Hey, Barry, it's Gerald Broden. Thank you very much for doing the Zoom. Really appreciate it.
Well,
Barry, I met you in 1981. I'm a Texas Tech Theater Department graduate.
yeah,
You and GW Bailey had come out to do the Gravediggers
we
in
did.
Hamlet. Mr. Schultz was directing it.
Yeah, we traded parts.
Yeah,
We did,
yeah.
I did the first one first, and then he did the first one the second night.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, my question is,
Oh, I got to tell you a story about that.
yeah,
We were over at the student union building trying to get people to come see the show. So we did the Gravedigger scene, and I was playing the first Gravedigger,
I remember that. Yeah,
and we did that, and my son, who's now 40 something years old, he was there, but he was at that time he was like 3, 2, 3, something like that. And at the end of it, he said, "Daddy, why were you yelling at us?" And GW said, "That's what your daddy calls acting."
that sounds like GW.
Yeah. He's he'll knock off any kind of ego you might have.
My question is, just wondering, has there ever been any type of a discussion about a Northern Exposure reboot or reunion show or anything like that?
They say something about it every 2 or 3 years, but I don't think there's any possibility of it. There was a problem with that show, and it was not to do with anything except a lawsuit.
Oh, really?
We didn't know anything about it when we were shooting. We were shooting in Washington. This whole thing's going on in California.
Yeah.
And apparently, when they did the first, I think 8 episodes was a summer replacement. That's all they were going to do. They were going to do 8 episodes, and that was it. And it did pretty well that summer, but then they canceled something in middle of the season and picked it up for I don't know, 10 more episodes or 8 more or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And it became, and then they replayed the original summer replacement. It became a huge hit. And so they decided they'd pick up 32 episodes.
Wow.
Well, about that time, the fellow that wrote the original one and sent it to Universal sued because the Universal had passed it on to the guys that created St. Elsewhere.
Oh.
And so they lost the lawsuit.
Yikes.
And so shortly after that, they changed producers and gave it to a fella who he later on did a show called The Sopranos, a guy named David Chase.
Chase. Yeah.
But he didn't like the show. he said it was too precious for him. He didn't like it. And so he proceeded to dismantle it. And that's what Universal wanted to have done. They wanted to wreck it.
Huh.
And so if you remember, it started getting real weird.
Yeah, last couple of seasons.
I
Yeah.
went to kind of a non-firing war with the fellas in California, and you know, some of the other actors in the show said, "You're going to get us canceled." I said, "We're already canceled. I'm just having fun." So the last season, I was the only one nominated for an Emmy, and the producers said, "Well, you can't go. You'll be working. You can't go to the Emmys."
Well, that kind of sucks.
I said, "Well, that's going to look awful bad in the tabloids, isn't it?" Said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It means I've got a publicist too." And he said, "Oh, well, you can go, but we don't have it in our budget to get you a limousine or rent you a hotel room and pay your airfare down there and so forth." I said, "Well, okay, I'll take Alaska Airlines, stay in the Motel 6 and find the cheapest transport I can find. That'll be fine." So I called a friend of mine who was a wrangler, said, "I need two of the two horses that are, one of them needs to be completely bomb proof and the other one needs to be kind of used to crowds, you know. And I need a permit to ride the horses on the streets of Pasadena." And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm planning to ride into the Emmys horseback." And so my daughter and I did. But they finally came around and bought us a plane ticket and a hotel room and a limousine. Well, I didn't know what I was going to do with the horses when I got up to the red carpet. And limousine, and my daughter and I rode up horseback. People were hooping and hollering and carrying on. My little horse was not quite as broke as the one I had my daughter on, so he was kind of dancing around looking. But then he left a deposit on the red. Led the horses out, and we went up to the Army Archer. Was there, you know, he always announced it. He says, "Well, you picked an interesting way to come into the Emmys. Is there a story behind that?" Well, that's open to me, you know. I said, "Well, apparently Universal and CBS, the producers weren't making enough money selling coffee cups, t-shirts and whatnot to provide me with a limousine. So I took the cheapest transport I could find." Well, I didn't work for Universal for about 10 years, and I didn't work for CBS for a long time, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I bet. That's hilarious. That's funny as hell. Very cool, Barry. Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next we have a question coming from Miss Zoe.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Gerald. I'll try to keep my glasses on so I can see what's happening.
No problem.
Barry, Mr. Corbin, nice to
Yeah.
have
Oh, Barry, just call me Barry. Mr. Corbin makes me
Thanks
sound
for-
old.
Thanks for being with us. This one-man show that you have, is it something that you're interested in putting up again now, or do you have time?
I don't have really the time right now. I haven't done it in about probably 8 or 9 years.
Well,
I'm old enough to
if you
have makeup now. But
Yeah.
but it's you know, I would like to do it. I'd like to do that. And I'm also working on another thing to keep in so I can be in front of a live audience. That's fun to do that. You know.
Well, I've got a theater company here. I got a theater company here in Albuquerque. And if you're willing to come to Albuquerque, we would love to have you with us for a weekend or a couple of shows, you know. So I'll let Barry keep us in touch if that's all right.
Yeah, I love Albuquerque. We'll figure something out.
That'd be great.
Do that. Oh, I'll do something else.
Okay. Tell us about your about one of the favorite roles or shows you've ever done on stage, please.
Oh, on stage, I guess well, I always enjoyed doing The Odd Couple. That's a fun show. I played Oscar and Murray the Cop and several other things in that show. And I liked the comedies. I also enjoyed doing Merry Wives of Windsor, playing Falstaff. That was fun. And you know, just it's really hard to pick a favorite, because that's like asking which is your favorite kid. You know, I love them. Some of them are ugly. I did one play in New York one time called Masquerade. That was about the Earl of Oxford being Shakespeare. And there's a good argument for maybe that might be true. But the woman that wrote it in such a way that it was full of Shakespeare's titles. Said, I will not have my married life a comedy of errors. And all these different titles, she incorporated all the titles of his plays into the dialogue. And I think it was Martin Gottfried, the critic, wrote that if these actors were chefs, I'd never eat in a restaurant again. And said this goes to prove that the American actor is second in incompetence to the American politician. Well, I figured that's a step up for me, because my dad was a politician, so I'm not as incompetent as they are. So I figured it's a compliment. You know, you got to get your compliments where you can find them. But I didn't work in New York then for about 3 years. I had to go out on the dinner theater circuit doing Kiss Me Kate, things like that with Patrice Munzel.
Are you a member of Actors Equity, or is that not something you need anymore these days?
I'm a member of Actors Equity, but I'm a retired member.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't kept up my due. I still get the Equity paper, but I haven't worked under Equity's auspices in a long time.
Well, we would love to have you out here, so we'll talk about that at some other time.
All right.
Nice to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it. Let's do it. We'll do something together.
Okay.
Okay, so next we have a question coming from Chidawimbe. Is that pronounced correctly?
Hi.
My name is John Boy. No, it's Chilimboy. First, I would like to say, wow. The first time I've ever seen you on film, I actually wasn't supposed to be seeing you, because I saw you in a little movie called Blazing Saddles.
No, that wasn't me.
That was you?
No. You're probably thinking about Bert and Gilliam.
Hold on, let me be embarrassed. Let me be embarrassed a little bit more. Okay, I'm not embarrassed anymore. I've seen, no, you definitely ruled like the 70s, 80s, and Northern exposure when I was young 20s. Your performance and your presence pretty much ruled all of the stuff I've seen you in. I mean, there wasn't, I'll put it this way, you're one of the few actors I know of to where if you're in something, oh, he's good, okay. If the movie could suck or whatever, but you on point.
Well, I've done some that I just should not see.
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
been I've had a very fortunate career. It's been, there's a lot of luck involved in all that.
Uh-huh. What you just did earlier, your performance, I'm very surprised I haven't seen. If I haven't done your full bio, so I'm not sure if you've done it. Have you done video games?
Yes.
So I completely missed it because I'm hearing generals. I'm hearing a whole bunch of maybe that's why I recognized. Maybe it was you and I didn't know it.
Yeah, it probably was. I think the
because
battery's getting low here.
yeah, I see. Just Mr. Barry Corbin.
Yeah.
I'll get offline, but note that you have a fan. I wish I could put you in some of the stuff I've already written. It's a overarching commanding presence. I love it. Next person.
Hello.
I wonder if I should plug this thing in.
Yes.
I can plug it in over it, but I got to move.
All righty.
Right, if I move,
Sure.
let me take this thing off here. And I'm going to just hold it. And I'm going to move over to another chair. And we'll just continue the talk as soon as I get this thing plugged in.
You are more than worth waiting for, Barry. You do what you need to.
We can pretend it's a radio program.
Well, we can do that. But let's plug this deal in. And, there, that ought to help us some. Did that do it? No. 20% battery remaining.
Well, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, there you are. Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Barry. I'm Bonnie
Hi.
Lang. It is so wonderful meeting you. And I want to just ask you, like, what's been one of the most exciting moments in your career? And then what's it like being on Yellowstone? I mean, it's like one of the biggest, series like this year or actually for several years. So what's that like?
Well, it was a great time. I went up to the 4 Sixes ranch up in Guthrie, Texas, and shot my stuff there. And Taylor Sheridan wrote the one scene that I did, and he was the creator of the whole thing, and he directed it. And so it was quite a thrill to do that. And then I got to work with a cutting horse legend, Buster Welch, who I'd known for years. And we did a little improv scene where we talked about horses. And it was great to be able to visit with Buster too. So it was altogether a great experience.
Well, what's been the best experience? Like, what's been the most exciting thing that you remember, from acting that, maybe you were starstruck by someone? Do you get starstruck?
Not really. I sometimes, well, I one time when I first worked with Clint Eastwood,
Oh.
he had to knock the window out of the car and grab me by the collar and pull me out of the car. And my thought was when he hit that car window, which was candy glass, you know, it shattered. My thought was, that's Clint Eastwood. And he grabbed me and pulled me out of the car. And I had to think for a second what my first line was. No, that's he just kind of curled his lip, you know how he curled his lip like that. And I thought, well, that's Clint Eastwood. That's his whole deal. I one time had to give Tom Selleck an award for put him in the Hall of Great Western Performers at the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. And I said, I learned everything I know about acting from Tom Selleck. Whenever I'm in doubt about anything, if I don't know what to do, I do this.
I love it. That's perfect.
Tom nearly lost it on that.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, you're amazing. I got just one more question for you. And I'm sorry, I probably overdid my questions. But what's the most challenging for you in this business? Because I'm sure it's a tough business, right?
Getting a job. Especially last year. I worked 2 days last year. I worked enough so that they've canceled my insurance until January.
Oh.
Hey.
Well, thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was just no. It's I think the most challenging thing is finding something that you want to do. You know, you get so many scripts that are not worth doing. I don't want to do a bunch of stuff with explosions and a bunch of CGI stuff. You know, I don't want those computers to be the star of the thing. I want to be. So I'm trying to figure out what I can bring to it. If I can't bring anything to it that the explosions don't overcome, then I don't want to do it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today. You are truly an inspiration, and just keep doing this. You're just inspiring to us all.
Well, thank you. What's all those guitars doing back there?
I fiddle with them occasionally.
Well, you got a lot of them.
I'm a musician, singer-songwriter. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and so yeah, I played at Lukenbach, so it's so cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I had a friend, Cowboy Jack Clement, out in Nashville, who produced all the Charlie Pride and a lot of Johnny Cash and a lot of those guys. And he had a wall just about like that, had dobros and banjos and everything up on the wall. He'd take them down and play them. But he passed away. He was a good fella.
Oh.
Anyhow, it's good talking to you, and keep your guitars tuned.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Okay, so now we have a question coming from TJ Johnson Finn.
Okay.
Hi, Barry. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm a big fan, have always been. I've followed your career since, Urban Cowboy all the way through. We're friends on Facebook, so I always know what you're up to. I'm actually a retired agent and casting director. And so my question for you would be, what role do you think has been the most challenging for you in your career? Film roles.
Well, I don't know. They're all challenging, but I guess the most interesting one to me, because it was my first one really, was Urban Cowboy. Because I didn't know anything at all about film when I did that. I'd done a little bit of television, but I'd never done a film before. So it was a learning experience for little, little tricks that you need, And John Travolta was very helpful to me there.
Wonderful. Sure, you're just iconic. When I think of Texas actors, you come to the very top of that list. I mean,
did you ever hire me?
I did it, but I didn't always do stuff here in Texas. I was an international agent, and then I worked, all over, but nothing really in a lot of your genres. Now, I've worked with are you still with Linda McAllister?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with Linda many times over the years. She's amazing.
Oh yeah, she's great. And she doesn't insult people.
Right.
I've had to get rid of most of the agents that I've ever had because they end up insulting everybody.
Uh-oh.
And you don't want to put up with somebody insulting people, and that reflects bad on you.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's a great agent. It worked with her as a casting director on a few productions there in Dallas, and she was just so great, very kind. And sometimes it's a challenge in this world to find genuine people, and she is definitely genuine. And I just want to say to you that your acting and your roles I know for myself, and I'm sure everyone on this call, you've been a part of our lives for a very long time without you even realizing it.
Well, I've been around a long time.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have a question coming from Kathy Rose.
Okay.
Hi, Barry. I'm Kathy Rose Center. And your career has been so extensive. I wondered, did you ever reach a point when you felt pigeonholed into a certain kind of role and wanted to break out of it? And if so, what kind of role at that time did you really want to pursue? And what happened next?
Well, the number one, if you're in the movies, I mean, it's not so much in the theater, but if you're in the movies or in television, you get pigeonholed. You do get, but what you got to do is you've got to type yourself in the broadest range you can possibly do without going too far afield from what people expect. So I spent about 3 years where I turned down anything with the first name Sheriff in it. If it was Sheriff somebody, I said, no, I don't want to do it. But then Sam Elliott did a movie about Travis McGee, and they wanted me to play a sheriff in that. I wanted to work with Sam.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'll play the sheriff, but I'm not going to wear a uniform. I want to wear a business suit. So that's what I did. And then by that time, I'd broken the curse of being a sheriff, so I didn't have to worry about it much anymore.
So you think the business suit did it for you as far as breaking out of the pigeonhole?
Well, no, I think it was just that I didn't do a sheriff for a while. I did one of the early things I did, I played the sheriff on Dallas. And so people, and it was a recurring thing. So I did it for a long time. So people started thinking of me as the sheriff. So that's what they'd call for,
Well, was there anything, excuse me, was there anything in particular that you wanted to really do, whether you ever got to do that or not, other than James Bond, perhaps?
No, not really. I just wanted to work. And people do in film or television, they expect you to be a certain person.
Yeah.
Like when Clark Gable tried to break out of his deal and do Parnell, that the Irish patriot, you know.
Mhm.
It didn't work. People wouldn't go see it because Clark Gable was not playing Clark Gable. And if Cary Grant tried to play something that was not what people perceived as Cary Grant, he would, you know, people didn't go see it as much.
Right.
So he tried to stay within that realm. Somebody said to Cary Grant, whose real name was Archibald Leach, they said, you know, I always wanted to be Cary Grant. And he said, so did I.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So now we have a question coming from Sean Jones.
Hey, Barry
Okay.
Corbin, how are you, sir?
How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing very well. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I've been following your career as well as long as I can remember. So I want to ask you, out of all the films and TV shows, what was the one that stood out that was the most fun to be involved in?
I think the early episodes of Northern Exposure, because I was on that longer than I was on anything else, and we got to explore that character a little more in depth than you do in a short form, you know.
I actually worked for a Fox affiliate in Lubbock, Texas, and at one time I was paid to watch you. Basically, I was the on-air operator at Fox 34 in Lubbock, Texas, which I'm sure you're familiar with Lubbock in that area.
Oh yeah.
And I would run your shows on in the evening, so I could always say I was paid to watch your TV shows.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you were paid to watch them.
I had to make sure the commercials run too. That's really what paid for it. But
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you.
So we
It was-
have,
Yeah.
Sorry.
so
No.
we have a comment coming from Dana Walsh, and then we have Elizabeth Brimmer following Dana.
Okay.
Hey Barry, how are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I just wanted to tell you I hadn't I'd been doing a lot of moving and stuff, and I finally got to watch Yellowstone, and about a week ago, and I binged it. I can barely walk now from sitting in front of the darn TV. But you were just beautiful in that. I mean, you were wonderful.
Well,
And
thank you.
I loved it. And I didn't even know about this meetup until after I saw it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw you. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to tell you how much I enjoyed it. And
Well,
thank
I just
you.
saw that episode too. I didn't see it when it was. I didn't know it was on. They don't ever tell me anything. You know, they just run it and figure out I'm following. I'd almost forgot I made it. I made it a year ago, or over a year ago.
Well, it was wonderful. It was perfect. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to tell you that, and thank you for being here with us and talking to us. And I'm really enjoying hearing your stories.
Well, thank you. Good. Appreciate it.
Cool. You take care.
All right. You too.
Elizabeth?
Hi, Barry. This is Elizabeth from Austin, Texas. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Elizabeth. Where do you live in Austin?
I live on the Greenbelt on Barton Creek, southwest
Oh, yeah.
side. We moved here in May. My husband retired, and we sold our house in Houston, and here we are. And
Well,
I guess that brings me to my
You made an improvement in climate anyway.
well, and I would have to say scenery too.
Yeah.
So, my question for you, and I'm probably the least experienced person on this forum right now, so it is a privilege to be even speaking to you. but I just wanted to ask you, someone who's dabbled in some community theater, I fell in love with acting. And I'm older, but my life hasn't been such that I've been able to do that until now. And so I'm venturing into it and very, very excited about it. And what would you tell someone my age who's getting their feet into this world of film and acting? And when those moments, because of my stupid age, I go, you know, should I be doing this? Should I not? Is it worth it? All these stupid questions and self-doubt that goes through my mind, even though at the core of me, I know this is something I really want to do. And so I'm just pressing forward. I'm involved in some background acting right now, and I'm making strides towards classes. And I have signed up at the actor's school at the community college here. So, you know, I don't know. I would
Sounds
just
like
love
you're
your
doing
feedback
everything
on
right.
that.
Sounds to me like you're doing everything right. Just get as much experience as you can in front of a live audience, because once you get on film, you've got to use your sense memory of especially if you're doing comedy. If you're doing comedy, and
one
you're
of
doing
the ones I did was the comedy, and that was real fun.
if you're doing a sitcom, you've got to know where the laughs come in.
Right.
So you don't want to walk on the laughs.
So you said something that touched my heart, and that was that you're not ever going to grow up. And you know what? I don't think I am either. And so that kind of fueled me, because I don't want to let my age get in the way of this and just venturing into it as young as I am in the industry. So I'm just going to continue doing what I'm going to do and take what opportunities come. So,
Sidney Greenstreet didn't make a film until he was 61.
Wow.
And he worked and he did I don't know, I think he did close to 50 or 60 films in an 8-year period.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then his health got bad, so the only thing he did later was radio. But he didn't do his first film till he was 61. So keep on going.
Well, thank you. I'm so thankful to be talking to you, and I'm sure there's other people that want to have questions answered or just chat with you. So thanks everybody.
Don't think about your age. You're not that old.
Okay. Thanks bunch. Have a good evening after we get off here. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Judy McMillan.
Hi, Barry. How are you?
Hey, Judy. How are you?
So I got to be your wife in An American in Texas, your Madeline, which was an amazing experience. I wanted to first comment that, you just did that monologue from As You Like It, and you make it seem so natural when you act. And I know this because I acted with you. It just looks so easy. And I really admire that about you.
Well, thank you. It's well, we all know it's not that easy, but if you make it look hard, then it don't work.
Yeah, it's just really effortless when I watch you. It just, no matter who you're doing, whatever part you're playing, it looks effortless. I have a question, and that is there a role, a character, a kind of role that you would like to play that you've never gotten to do?
Maybe if I had the energy, I might like to do Lear.
Nice.
Cool.
I don't know. I don't know if I still have the energy to do it.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking, that's so funny because I was thinking, I wonder if you ever did Lear.
Yeah, no, I never did, but it would be an interesting thing to try to do.
Very cool. Well, I hope you get to do it and invite me if you do.
All right. Thank you.
Good
Okay,
to see you.
so we have another question by myself, Tootie Hall. I'm out in the Fort Hood area, retired military. My question is, have you ever thought about giving classes to actors? Because just by listening to you, have a lot to offer us.
Oh, thank you. I haven't because I'm not sure how to act myself. I can't tell anybody what to do because I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. So the next question will be coming from Barry.
Yeah. What is the secret to not looking like you're acting on camera? What is the secret to acting naturally when you're in a scene?
Listening. You listen to what the other person's saying, and you respond to it. And it's Pat Hingle one time told me, he said, I try to learn my lines ahead of time and then forget them. So I walk on the set and I just answer the whatever the person's saying, whatever the other person's saying. I listen to what they say and answer it. And I think that's pretty good advice, you know. You learn the lines, you incorporate them into your brain, and then forget it. You walk on stage and or walk on the sound stage or wherever, and you James Cagney said, you plant your feet and you tell the truth. So that's sort of like boxing or dancing or something. You're responding to another person. You're not you know, a lot of times you'll see an actor standing there trying to remember what the next thing he's supposed to say is. I had a young actor one time ask me that, and I said, well, you've got to listen to what the other person's saying. He said, I do. And I said, no, you don't. And so then we're rehearsing a scene later, and I told the cameraman to turn the camera on while we rehearsed, turn it on him. And I said something, but wasn't even anywhere close to what was in the script. And he responded with the line that he'd learned. And I said, okay, now would you play that back for him? So they played it back for him, and he said, oh, yeah, you didn't say your line right. And I said, no, you didn't answer right. So it's a matter of listening and telling the truth.
Are you able to come out of a role that easy when you've been immersed in it or been with it for so long?
Yeah. It's you know, you don't part of you's got to believe what you're doing, and part of you's got to be able to know what reality is. I mean, otherwise, would all actors be psychotics?
I'm wondering if everyone who still has their hands raised, if you're not planning to ask another question, could you unraise them? And does anyone else have a question?
Yes, we have I think it was Gary that had a question.
Yeah, I did. I had a question and a comment. First of all, Barry, I compliment you on your attitude. It's overwhelmingly optimistic, creative, and organic, I think, from the way you talk.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, the way you talk about acting is just like it's organic. I'm sure you learn your lines. It's a struggle and all that, but your attitude makes it work.
Well, yeah, I do it for a living, and but it's also my hobby.
Right, you love it. You love it. You put passion to it. Now, you mentioned earlier you did a little improvisation scene. I'm just curious, when you get a chance to improvise, you obviously know the content. Do you know how many seconds or minutes you have to do it? Do they give you much direction in that, or they just plan on editing out later?
Well, in this particular case, I was working with Buster Welch, who was a cutting horse trainer, a legend in the cutting horse world. And I had worked with Buster before, and we'd actually been partners in a cutting contest. We'd won, so I knew him a little bit, and he really didn't pay much attention to what the camera was doing or what we were. We were just talking horses, and I'd feed him a little bit, and then he'd talk a little bit, and they cut it down quite a bit because they didn't need that much. They just needed enough to establish that we were there talking, and then the scene came up later.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And we have a comment from Mr. Washington.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Just real quick. Thank you for being a Texan. I've been in Texas now since '86. So all the stereotypes of does everyone have a horse? My mom said to get your ass in the car. Seriously, that's a quote. That's like, get your ass in the car. Just don't get in the car. All the stereotypes that I've come up in the media pre-Texas and sometimes in Texas, meeting people like you, meeting people like the person that's now my wife. It's a wonderful thing to buck stereotypes, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm people think I'm a stereotypical Texan, and in a lot of ways I am. But we come in all kind of shapes and sizes and
oh yes,
everything.
So now we have a question coming from Carlton.
Hey there, sir. How are you?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Good. Good to see you again. So I have a question for you that I think maybe it's been answered before, but I'd like to come a different direction at you. So what's a mistake that a lot of us actors make that you would like to, if you had a chance to give us a little piece of advice, you would say, hey, don't try that or don't do that. What's a thing that you would help us with to keep us out of trouble?
One of the things that really trip people up is trying to figure out what the casting people or the director or whoever, what are they looking for? Don't try to do what you think they're looking for. Do what's your take on the part or the piece is,
Right.
so many people, they'll try to figure out, say, well, this guy must be British, or this guy must be this or that or the other thing. We're salespeople, and our product is us. So if we try to change us to fit somebody else's idea of us, then we don't have anything to sell. So we've got to find what is in us that is marketable. My son used to try to be like me, and I said, that's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, find what's in you that's marketable. Don't try to copy somebody else. And a lot of young actors will try to copy, somebody. I don't know who the young people are anymore. But when I was a kid, when I was starting out, you'd try to copy Marlon Brando or James Dean and do something strange, But
Right.
I learned pretty early on that I'm not those guys. I'm me.
So I should stop copying you?
Huh?
I should stop copying you then?
No, you can if you want to, but that ain't gonna get you too far. Because if they want me, they come get me.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I one time read a thing in the trade paper said a Barry Corbin type. And I told my agent to submit me for it. I went in there and they tried to get me to do a bunch of cartoonish stuff. And I said, well, wait a minute. You don't want me. You want your impression of me. So go out and find somebody that can do your impression of me and hire him. So they did, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they did because I never saw the project.
Right.
So next we have Gerald.
Hey, Barry.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, Barry. Real quick, what was it like I'll make this real quick. What was it like working with Gary Marshall and Nothing in Common? And when he was still around, really, I wish Gary still was. Did he ever ask you to do anything at the Falcon Theater there in Burbank?
He never did, but I knew that theater.
Yeah.
No, Gary was a great guy to work with. He's it's a collaborative effort, and so many times a director will try to tap you into a particular thing that gets you uncomfortable. I had a director one time. I had to shear a sheep in this show, and while I was shearing the sheep, I had about a 3-page monologue. So I had to go out and shear sheep for a week or two before I could feel comfortable enough to do it while I was doing this monologue. So I got this one sheep and I started shearing him and I started the monologue and the director said, no, cut. Don't make that face. And I said, I beg your pardon? He said, don't make that face. I said, well, this is the face that you hired to do this part. What do you mean, don't make that face? He said, well, what you were doing with your face, don't make that face. I said, do you think I stand in front of my mirror while I shave in the morning and practice faces? Tell me to think something different. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, just think something different. He said, well, think something different. Okay, roll it. And so I did the same thing I did before. Got the sheep, started shearing him, and got through all the monologue, and put the sheep back in. He was all clean. I put him back in the pen. And the guy said, "Okay, cut." Boy, that was wonderful. That was perfect. And I realized that this guy he knew he wanted to give me a note, but he didn't know what he wanted to give me. So he said that, don't make that face.
Yeah.
And that's not really constructive.
No, it's not.
But Gary always, anything that he said was always something that was useful. He and Gary and Blake Edwards were a lot alike in that way.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Blake Edwards was, he said, I write these scripts for the suits. Let's just have some fun. So I was doing some scenes with Burt Reynolds, and Burt likes to fool around and improvise. So we did, and we ended up just improvising our whole parts in the thing, and it was not completely successful, but it was, we had some pretty funny little stuff in there.
Yeah.
And that's the way Blake liked to work, and Gary's loose like that too.
Cool.
He was a wonderful man.
Yeah, I met him briefly. I used to live in Toluca Lake, and I was in the theater dropping off a picture or something. He was there. And I was like, "Hi, Mr. Marshall, good to meet you." And he was very cordial, very polite man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice fella.
Yes, sir.
People from Brooklyn are usually pretty nice.
Yeah, I have found that. Yes, sir.
People from Manhattan, not so much.
Yeah. It's a New York thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you.
Judith, we had one more question from David, if that's okay.
Hey, Mr. Berry, what's going on?
Oh, not much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I have a sort of a question / comment, maybe sort of a little slightly wishful thinking kind of thing. We're both West Texas boys. I'm from Rock Springs and lived there a bit, didn't grow up there. My comment is sort of an acting kind of thing, and a compliment and a wishful thinking has to do with No Country for Old Men. And that scene in the end, well, not the very end, but that scene with you and Tommy Lee Jones talking to each other, it just so encapsulated West Texas, how tough it could be. I know it's getting tamed, cut up, developed, and all that crap now, but I see a lot of TV shows where they go in and kind of have like a sort of an attitude about what they're trying to convey, and it comes off as like they're trying to indicate something. But when you two guys work together, it just was what it was. And of course, I'm from out there, so I mean, I could hear the wind, and I could see the vista from here to there, and nothing out there, and how rough and tough it actually really was until just recently, and it still is.
You didn't hear the rattlesnakes under the floor of the place, did you?
No, I didn't. Did y'all have a few?
Yeah, there were some rattlesnakes up under that floor.
Awesome. Well, if there's someone had asked a question earlier about how to approach something in a way. Of course, that's really good writing. It's a really good story. What did y'all do anything special in terms of, a lot of us, we've done or studied Stanislavski or Chubbuck and just different things. Did y'all know each other before, or had y'all worked together in some way? I know y'all are both horse people and all that.
Yeah, I've known Tommy Lee for I don't know, about probably 35 years, I guess. And we'd done some other stuff together. We've been off and on friends for all that time. We don't see each other socially usually. I mean, we're usually when we see each other we're working, but he's a good guy, and so we knew each other and kind of played off that. But the writing of that thing, my manager called me and said the Coen brothers want to ask you to do this part in this movie. And this was not too long before we did it. I mean, they'd seen every old man in the country, I guess. And they finally just called and offered it to me. And I said, well, send me the script. And he said, well, it's only one scene, but it's a great scene. And I said, okay, send me the script. So I started reading the script. I'll usually read a script for like I'm reading a novel, I'll start at the beginning and then read it for the story first, because I hadn't read that book,
Right.
So I read it, and it's a lot of bloodletting and murderous stuff. I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. And then I got to that scene. I read that, and I said, whoa, wait a minute. And I went back and read it again. And I called my manager up and I said, well, hell yes, I'll do it. That scene is the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That explains the whole movie. And so I did, they hired me. And then they had me fly out to Santa Fe to do a rehearsal with Tommy Lee. So I flew out and we ran through the thing one time in a little conference room, and they said, okay, that's great. Let's make a break now, go to lunch. So Tommy and I went to lunch together with some of his people, and then I went on and did a short movie in Kansas, and flew down to Marfa to do this other movie, do No Country for Old Men. We did it a day, we did most of it one day, and then they came in to do some pickup scenes in the morning, just a few pickup shots. And I said to, I think it's Joel, I said, do you guys ever give anybody any direction? And he said, well, if we cast it right, we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the smartest thing any director ever said to me.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome.
But
that's great.
Yeah, that was that whole deal. It was I spent before I did that, I spent 2 weeks horseback, and I went and did that scene in the wheelchair, and that made me sorer than the horse did.
They probably picked up in a junkyard with the old wore out ass seat on it.
Yeah, it was one of those old woven seats,
Oh, geez. Hopefully it was at least not hot out. Well, cool. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome.
All right.
Well, that's gone by quick.
Yes. And I just want to thank you so much. Excuse me. I lose my voice when that happens. What is it, Tootie?
I think we have one more question by Cody.
Hi, yes.
Well, it's after 8:30, so that's up to Mr. Corbin.
Well, yeah, let's answer another question if we got one.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I just had a question. What's the most useful piece of advice that you received in your career?
Oh, gosh, there's been so much, and some of it wasn't really any advice. It was just something I observed, One thing that's interesting about about your evolution as you go through your career is that you start out observing, watching people, watching behavior, watching all kinds of things, listening for things. And you get to a point sometime in there that you quit being the observer and you become the observed. So you don't really see people as they really are. You see them looking at you. And so you've got to go back in the sense memory and remember what it was like when you were watching people. Otherwise, you start copying yourself. So it's kind of a weird circle. But no, the best advice I think that anybody ever gave is don't overthink it. I mean, you can get yourself in a real ball of wax by overthinking it. I know a lot of people studied at the actor studio with Strasberg, and they'd say they didn't work actually in plays or in movies or anything. They'd do scene studies all the time, and they'd say, I talked to one fellow that got a job early on in his career, Broadway thing, long running Broadway show, and he started studying with actors studio over there, and he was out of work for about 8 or 10 years, and he'd clean up around the actor studio, and you'd say, well, have you got any work? He says, no, Lee says I'm not ready. So, that's if you fall into that, you fall into studying and not doing, then it can be a vicious trap. So you gotta get up in front of an audience and do it. That's the best way to learn.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed every minute of it.